Welcome to the Undisputed Podcast. I'm your host, Joy Taylor. On today's show, how will Ezekiel Elliott's suspension play out? Plus, Shannon commends Michael Bennett for his decision to protest during the national anthem. And UFC Hall of Famer Randy Couture joins the show to break down Mayweather versus McGregor. Skip, Shannon, let's debate. Let's start with Ezekiel Elliott. The NFL announced Elliott's 6-game suspension on Friday for violating the league's personal conduct policy. The league investigated Zeke's alleged involvement in, quote, multiple instances of physical violence over a year ago. Adam Schefter reports Elliott will appeal the decision tomorrow. His lawyer said, quote, the NFL findings are replete and with factual inaccuracies and erroneous conclusions. Elliott tweeted, I am both surprised and disappointed by the NFL's decision today, and I strongly disagree with the league's findings. I recognize the distraction and disruption that all of this has caused my family, friends, teammates, the Dallas Cowboys organization, as well as my fans. For that, I am sincerely sorry. I admit that I am far from perfect, but I plan to continue to work very hard on and off the field to mature and earn the great opportunity that I have been given. The news of the suspension broke minutes after our show ended on Friday. So, Skip, this is your first chance to talk about it here on Undisputed. What was your reaction?
Joy and Shannon. Before I get to my points, I'm going to say this one more time. Be very, very clear about this. If you can conclusively prove to me that Ezekiel Elliott beat up his accuser, one Tiffany Thompson, even once, let alone several times, during that week of July 16th of 2016, then I think he should be gone for the entire year. Seriously, if you can just show me and lay it out where he beat her up, even once, let alone several times, gone for the year. I was a big no before Jerry Jones signed Greg Hardy, and as a Cowboy fan, lifelong, I was embarrassed and said so on television when he did sign Greg Hardy. Just to be clear about this, this is very different for me. Jerry Jones, as we know, repeatedly said before the suspension came down, and I quote, of the accusations, there is nothing there. There is nothing there. Ezekiel and his team repeatedly said, there is nothing there. I have never heard Jerry Jones so adamant about a matter of such magnitude in public. Nothing there. Interesting. So, I expected the NFL in a statement to lay out, again, off what our man Chris Carter had said, revolting and convincing detail about the damage that Ezekiel Elliott did to Tiffany Thompson during that said week. Instead, all we got from the NFL is just that it found, quote, substantial and persuasive evidence supporting a finding that Elliott engaged in physical violence against Ms. Thompson on multiple occasions during that week. It's a little vague.
Yes.
I need some detail. I need some proof. I need some conclusion here to back me into a corner where I finally say, suspend him for the whole year. I didn't get that. Elliott and his team have repeatedly said that she had pre-existing injuries from a bar fight. Again, I'm not trying to try her case in the court of public opinion. I'm just telling you what they said. And that there were several eyewitnesses who testified during this investigation that she vowed to, when he broke up with her, to quote unquote ruin his career. Okay, that's his side of the story. None of this is crystal clear to me yet. So I'm starting to wonder about what's going on in a case in which there were no charges filed, obviously, in Columbus, Ohio, or Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So those law enforcement arms investigated and found not enough to charge. They said her testimony was at best conflicting and inconsistent. So I can only conclude that we all know that Ezekiel Elliott has been involved in one incident after another. Again, never a charge, but too many incidents. You say it, I agree with you. So, did the NFL come down on him to punish him for all of the above incidents? I think, yes, they did. They finally said, we're not completely sure about the domestic violence, but at least we're sure enough that if we pile all these other incidents on top and all the things we've all heard, and Chris Carter's heard, he's had problems with alcohol, maybe more, that they said, okay, we're going to get you for all of the above, and number two, we're going to make an example of you as the face of domestic violence. We're going to show everyone that we're going to take the hottest young Dallas Cowboy, the guy who's risen all the way up to, what is it, number 2 on the list of merchandise sales to Tom Brady. And we're going to take him down for 6 games just to show the world how serious we are about domestic violence. And in fact, this might all serve as one big, what they call intervention in AA, where the NFL sort of acted as intervening on Ezekiel. And so let's take him out for 6 games and hope that he goes and gets himself straight, okay? So now we come to the appeals process. Help me out here. How in the world, after Roger Goodell has already heard all their side of the story, he went to New York with his team and presented his whole case. How could he hear the whole case again and reduce it even 1 game? It's domestic violence we're talking about. So could he admit publicly, well, you know, I'll give you this. You only beat her up 5 times instead of 6, so I'm going to give you only 5 games instead of 6. You can't do that. No. It's domestic violence. And the policy, the new policy, post-Ray Rice, calls for 6 games for first-time offender, right?
That's the baseline.
Period, end of story. So the appeal is silly to me because even I, from a perspective of a Cowboy fan, you can't reduce this. If you really believe this, you cannot say, okay, 5 games. Baloney, you can't. Now, what have I said for the last 2 weeks on this show? I believe Jerry Jones is going to sue Roger Goodell over this. Does Jerry have a leg to stand on?
Nope.
Well, what is it? Article 46 of the CBA says you don't have a leg to stand on because it basically just says that Roger Goodell is judge, jury, and executioner here. And when it comes to anything pertaining to conduct detrimental to the integrity or the public confidence in the game of professional football, the last buck is on the commissioner's desk. And he can do whatever he wants to do. And in the highest court in the land, they're going to have to say, God, sorry, guys, you signed this. You're going to have to live with it.
Buck stops with him.
You got it. But this is Jerry Jones, the most powerful owner in sports, who owns now the most valuable team in all the world, the Dallas Cowboys. He actually countersued the NFL in 1995 over revenue sharing, stadium naming rights. We want to keep the rights. We want to be Pepsi instead of the NFL's Coke. And he won. He didn't win the whole lawsuit, but he won parts of that lawsuit. This is the one guy I'm not going to bet against in court. He's got the deepest pockets. Obviously, the NFLPA would initially be asked to help out some to support Zeke in a lawsuit. But this is the guy, in this case, I don't bet against. If you want to go this far, I'll do, it's like I give Conor McGregor a puncher's chance against Floyd.
Right.
Well, I'm going to give Jerry a puncher's chance in a no-win. Obviously, it echoes Deflategate, but it was very different in Deflategate because it wasn't conduct unbecoming off the field. It was, what do you call it, like strategic or competitive that you were talking about on the field.
Right.
And the Patriots also got punished there. They got docked a whole first-round draft pick and then another one down the line, a 4th rounder next year.
Correct.
And $1 million. But in this case, this is Goodell against a player, conduct detrimental, and I believe that Jerry will sue him for what he will claim to be abusive power. And Brady got through 2 rounds of court. Remember, he won at the district level, which was a huge upset because Judge Berman, District Court of Manhattan, basically said, this is crazy. You shouldn't have this much power. And yet...
And that wasn't for him to determine.
It wasn't for him to determine. So it goes to the appeals court, and 2 of the 3 judges sided with the NFL, basically because, hey, you guys signed this, so you got to live with it, okay? So the odds are way against Jerry, but I'm going to give him a long shot chance here. And could he get some kind of injunction or restraining order to stop this suspension from happening starting on, what is it, September 2nd, I think it's supposed to start? He could. Now, the Brady wanted to take it to the Supreme Court, and he finally gave up, saying, I've been too distracting for my team. I spent too much of my time and effort. I spent too much of their money, the NFLPA's money on this. So Brady backed off before they went to the Supreme Court and said, okay, I'll pay now instead of paying later. Because even if Jerry got a restraining order, an injunction, then Zeke could have to serve his suspension at the end of the year, which probably wouldn't be the coolest thing to do.
Yeah, you don't want to mess around with this, Skip. Let's just say for the sake of argument, he files an appeal. and his appeal is heard, and then he's suspended. But he's suspended the last 4 games of the regular season and maybe the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. That's not a very good situation.
Nope.
And I don't think he can win anyway. Skip, I thought he would be suspended 2 to 4 games based on some of the disputed allegations in said complaint. Now, the NFL did mention that on one occasion, Ms. Thompson misspoke the truth. That's a nice way of me saying, George, she lied. And they found out that she lied. And let me tell you something about courts and how they normally operate. They say a single lie discovered is enough to create doubt in everything expressed.
Thank you.
So basically, they said, yeah, we know you lied about this, but we believe you're telling the truth about that.
Yep.
And I can see why Zeke is upset, but Skip, he has no one to blame but himself. And if you read when the NFL, what they laid out, they said, okay, yeah, this allegation, but there was something that took place on March 11 of 2017. It was brought to our attention that you pulled a lady's top down, exposing her breast. We talked to the lady.
Yep.
Do you think that lady said, well, I was with Zeke and that was okay? Or do you think she said, I didn't tell Zeke he could do that? And so they're looking.
I don't know what she said, but you can surmise.
Because if you're thinking about it, Skip, you gotta practice really, really hard to have this many coincidences happening to one guy. The alleged allegations of domestic abuse in Ohio and South Florida, the pulling of the top down, the bar fights, the punching of the bouncer. Skip, this is the same guy. And what you mentioned something very good, Skip. You said Article 46. It also says that the commissioner does not need to have charges or conviction for him to deem something unbecoming or detrimental to the National Football League.
Yep.
I repeat, he does not need a charge or a conviction to hand down punishment of conduct detrimental or harmful to the National Football League. So basically what he's saying, Ezekiel Elliott, you didn't get charged. You weren't even convicted. But we think your behavior is so egregious that this is what your punishment should be. Now, Skip, if I'm Zeke, I'm upset for a reason. Now, yeah, I put myself in this situation. So first of all, I'm going to be upset at myself because I put myself in a lot of situations that I probably shouldn't have. But Zeke is sitting back and his representatives are sitting back and like, hold on, wait a minute. We got a kicker named Josh Brown that last year played for the New York Giants. He told the owner, John Mara, that I abused my wife. He also told that to the NFL. Skip, he got drunk at the Pro Bowl. They had to move his wife and kids to a different location. This is not secondhand. This is not hearsay. The NFL intervened, and he got 2 games.
Yep.
So Zeke said, hold on. A guy told you he did it. His wife told you he did it. You intervened at the Pro Bowl, so you know what he's capable of doing, and he got 2 games. It's my word against her word, and I get 6. And you said you didn't factor in any outside, but they did. Because if you look at the wording of it, they factored heavily in what happened on that St. Patrick's Day, leading up to it where he exposed that lady's breast. And that had a lot to do with it. Skip, I hope this is a wake-up call for this young man because I told you he's going down a dangerous road here. And I also said his head coach, his general manager, Jerry Jones, they will never, ever have a peaceful night's sleep as long as he's on their roster.
Okay, I got that. But we're still back to, did he beat up this woman repeatedly that week?
Yes.
Do we know that for sure? Because I'm unconvinced about that. I'm hazy about it. Maybe, maybe not. So to me, the one accusation against Ezekiel that is hardest to defend is domestic violence.
Yeah.
Because it does come down to her word against his basically in the end, right?
Correct.
So it feels like they said, let's nail him for this for 6 games, but it's really cumulative, and you can throw in pulling the top down.
Yes.
Okay? But all the incidents, they're a dozen incidents.
That in and of itself, Skip, could have gone up to, because they mentioned it in the write-up. That in and of itself is a violation. So they could have really slapped him with 2 games just for that alone.
They probably could have. Well, they can do anything they want.
Yes.
But they could probably have justified that.
Skip, in Article 46, 31 or 32 teams said, Commissioner Goodell, we want you to have all that power because you said we're going to have less practice time, we're going to be in pads less, we're going to have less OTAs, we're going to have one padded practice during in training camp. And for that, we're willing to give you all this power. 31 of 32 teams. Ryan Clark and the Steelers said, nope, that's too much.
Way to go, Ryan.
The owners signed that unanimously. 32-0.
And it was because the constituency of the NFLPA, the players, they're finally saying, I just want my check, man. I want to play. I just want to play.
Because what happened is that the players like, I'm not going to go before the commissioner. I'm on the up and up. I'm straight. The NFLPA upper management's like, guys, you're not going to have to go before the commissioner. Oh, lo and behold, two of the faces of the National Football League had to go before the commissioner. And you know what I noticed, Skip? As long as he was dishing out that punishment to one Pac-Man Jones, Jerry Jones, and nobody had a problem. The players never had a problem along with Pac-Man because, you know, Pac-Man, he a bad seed. But when Tom Brady and Ezekiel Elliott got entangled in that very web, it's a big, large web too, Skip, and you can't escape it. Now, all of a sudden, he has too much power. He never had too much power when he was suspending Pac-Man for 8 games or suspending Pac-Man for 3 games because we look at Pac-Man, or they looked at Pac-Man, Adam Jones, as a bad apple. Now we got some good apples, allegedly, and they got caught up in this web. Yep. Now, all of a sudden, we want to go back and revisit. Jerry Jones never had a problem. Because think about it, Skip, even when he got fined for circumventing the salary cap, Jerry like, okay, cool. That's cool. Hey, money, I make money. Money go on trees to me. When Tom Brady got there, that's why commissioners make the big bucks. We pay him to make tough decisions. He had no problem with that. Now what we're starting to see is that when his player, star, marquee player, gets ensnared in this trap, now all of a sudden we're going to rethink how we're going to do business. Skip, he relied on a lot of people. The Lisa Friels, and I got the list right here.
He had a committee of,
Peter Harvey, Ken Houston, who's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Tanya Lovelace, Mary Jo White.
They all have high credibility, but in the end, you know who made this
call?
The commissioner made the call.
Yeah.
And you know who you're up against. This isn't Robert Kraft. This is Jerry Jones. Robert Kraft folded his tent about halfway through Deflategate and said, okay, I give up. And the quote was, I'm a league man. Jerry will never tell you he's a league man. He is a rebel with a cause, and I believe he will figure out a way to fight this. And it would matter if he could get this in which jurisdiction. If they could get this filed in Columbus, Ohio, or Dallas, Texas, they would have a better shot.
But here's the thing. The reason why Jerry won that case in 95, 96, because of all the other owners felt the same way Jerry did. They felt if we were negotiating something that wasn't a TV deal or wasn't a league-wide deal, why should we have to share a regional deal with the other 32 teams, with the other 31 teams?
Yeah, but there are a bunch of them that loves getting their 1/32 of the pie built by the Dallas Cowboys, right?
But that's TV and that's all that other stuff. Jerry said, and a lot of these guys, the Washington thought like this, the Giants thought like this, because they're in big markets, Skip. They say, this is individual. Got no problem giving you part of CBS, Fox, and NBC. We got no part of ES, got no problem with that. But this is individually. So now is the problem that Jerry has.
It's the CBA. The CBA didn't.
And tell me how many owners signed that? All 32. Say Skip, remember Commissioner Goodell was on Time Magazine. Yeah. He was in Sports Illustrated. The Get Tough commissioner. He's going to clean it up.
Yeah.
Well, in the process of cleaning it up, sometimes, Skip, you sweep up some stuff that you don't want to get thrown away.
Yep. So, Joy, what's your gut feeling?
It's very hard to trust the NFL and Roger Goodell, unfortunately, especially when it comes to these situations. I don't like the idea that they're throwing Josh Brown and Ray Rice into it because the purpose of these panel of experts and all of this change is that you work towards progress. It's supposed to be a 6-game suspension.
Right.
They messed up, so get better. What makes me uncomfortable with it is it's Roger Goodell, and we've seen even in the Tom Brady case, once the investigation comes out, it's not quite as clear. But I hope, just for the sake of progress, that they do know something that the rest of us don't know that made them feel confident in this case. And I don't know. I wouldn't bet against Jerry Jones, but that Article 46 pretty much it closes down the case pretty quickly. No mercy. Hey guys, before we move on, I wanted to tell you that the Undisputed podcast is brought to you by Barbasol. The biggest thing to happen to Barbasol since shaving cream is also the only thing to happen to Barbasol since shaving cream. Introducing new Barbasol razors. The brand America trusts for a close, comfortable shave now has premium disposable razors. Barbasol's close shave technology on every razor means you get an advanced pivoting head and ultra-thin open flow blades. The Ultra 6 Plus razor also features a 7th blade specifically designed to refine and style tricky areas like under the nose, sideburns, and beard. Visit Barbasol.com and get a $2 savings coupon and see for yourself why Barbasol razors are the #1 new disposable razors out there. You're looking good, America. You're shaving with Barbasol. No mercy. The NFL announced Ezekiel Elliott's 6-game suspension on Friday for violating the league's personal conduct policy. The league investigated Zeke's alleged involvement in, quote, multiple instances of physical violence over a year ago. Adam Schefter reports Elliott will appeal the decision tomorrow. His lawyers said, quote, the NFL findings are replete with factual inaccuracies and erroneous conclusions. We're joined by Fox Sports NFL analyst Greg Jennings. Welcome, Greg.
Good morning.
How will this play out?
You know, I don't know how this will play out, but what I do know is, let's take away football for a moment. I love what he brings on the football field. But what I'm seeing off the field, I'm concerned. And regardless of these accusations being true or not, or him being charged or not, his actions, if I'm a teammate and I'm within that locker room, I'm looking at a young man, and I may have a daughter. I have daughters. I have a wife. Regardless if you're charged with it or not, there's this perception that I'm going to tend to have. Now, I'm not one to judge, but because I know we all make mistakes. But as a teammate, I struggle with the fact that this young man is continuing to have issues, and there is no one or nothing that we've heard of that he's getting assistance with. Now, I understand the comments that he made, and he's apologetic, and everyone's typically apologetic after making some bad decisions. But I'm not sure how this is going to play out from a football perspective or aspect. I think that the league came down really hard. I was shocked with the 6 games. I think that when he does appeal it, it'll probably get reduced to probably 4. The 6 games is a lot. But I just forget football. Forget football. Like, the young man needs some assistance off of the field. Mm-hmm. He has more there's more to this than just playing football. I get it. He's a great player, and I will root for him on the football field. I don't know if I'm going to have my child, or I want my children seeing this. Now, what I will encourage my children to do is watch a young man in his process and how he's willing to show resolve in that process. So for me, I think more than just football related, what I'm interested in seeing play out is how he handles these things, these instances and these situations off the field personally. His dad speaking out about, the legal team getting ready to take action. Totally get that. But I need Ezekiel Elliott to stand up and be more of a man. Bottom line, I'm a teammate in that locker room. I have a wife. I have 3 daughters at home. It doesn't sit well with me, that doesn't mean I'm judging him, but it just doesn't sit well with me. If this were flipped and a young lady slapped him or did anything that was disrespecting to him, he would have an issue with it. The victim is not always, they shouldn't always feel like they can't come out and share their side of it. Bottom line, I just don't like it. I don't like that it's happened. I'm sure he doesn't like that it's happened. And if he could take it back, he probably would. But I'm looking forward to seeing more, for eliminating football, of how he handles this personally off the field, with bettering himself. That's my stance on it.
Go ahead, Skip.
I got several issues with everything you just said, but number one, there is no way this is going to get reduced on appeal. This is the charge and the conviction here from the NFL front office is on domestic violence. It is 6 games for a first-time offender, and I have no idea how you could reduce 6 games to 4 or 5 by saying, well, okay, so you only hit her X number of times. It either is or it is not. And they say it is, but they did not do so very convincingly to me. I expected in their statement that they issued revolting and conclusive detail, and I didn't get that. That's what I was ready for. And I'm the first to step up, and if you can show me revolting and convincing detail, he should be gone for a year, not just 6 games. Again, I was very against the signing of Greg Hardy because I already knew what he had done because it was court testimony. And he lost the first round in court and somehow escaped on the second round through a loophole in North Carolina. I did not want him on my Dallas Cowboys as a fan, and I was embarrassed when Jerry signed him. But in this case, your points about he needs to step up and be a man. We all know he's been in one incident after another after another. And I think you're thinking the way Roger Goodell and company were thinking here. We're not completely sure about the domestic violence. Her testimony has been not terribly convincing all the way through.
Sometimes she flat out lied.
She lied or she equivocated. She changed her testimony in Columbus and Fort Lauderdale to those police departments, both of which said, we can't find enough to charge him with domestic violence. So in this case, you step back and say, he needs to grow up. Well, he does. He's got serious issues. And I think the people on this committee that Roger Goodell formed and Lisa Friel, his spokesperson, she's his advisor over domestic violence. And I think they all stepped back and said, boy, we're hearing all this stuff that we all hear about Zeke. So let's bust him. Let's form what I would call, what they call in Alcoholics Anonymous, an intervention here. Let's intervene and force him out of football for 6 weeks. We'll say it's domestic violence, even though we can't really conclusively prove it was domestic violence. But let's go ahead and give him the 6 games and hope it serves to help him clean up his act. Let's force him away. Maybe he'll go get some help that he needs. I get all that, but you're doing it under the guise of making him the face of domestic violence in the NFL, and I just need more proof. And I'm not saying it wasn't there. If you can show it to me, fine. But Jerry Jones is going to sue Roger Goodell over this. I've been saying it for 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks on this show, because I've never heard Jerry so adamant publicly about there's nothing there. This is such volatile material you're talking about that usually Jerry, in an instance like this, would say, well, let's see what comes out, or let's wait and see. There was no wait and see on Jerry. He knows everything that they had, and he said there's nothing there. So if there's nothing there, Jerry's going to fight, and he's going to fight in ways that Robert Kraft did not fight in Deflategate. He's a powerful man with very deep pockets. He's the most powerful owner in sports, and I think he's going to fight this. That's why Ezekiel's father is tweeting now, my son's legal team is ready to fight. Let's deal, okay? And tweeted a whole bunch of these quotes from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram report that are damaging to the woman's testimony.
Yes.
So, and I won't go into the gory detail because I don't want to try this in the court of public opinion, but there's one side to this and there's a whole nother side to this, and the twain have not met yet to where we can all sit back and say, oh, that's awful. He should be gone for a year. I don't know that yet. There's obviously not a Ray Rice video where we can say, boom, that's terrible. I don't know exactly what happened. I'm just not convinced yet about what happened.
The thing for me is that we touched on it earlier. It's called Article 46, and it says no charges, no conviction, doesn't mean
necessary.
Right. Yeah. Does not mean the commissioner cannot still appropriate punishment. And you look at Zeke's behavior. Zeke probably went in there at some point in time. They talked to Zeke last year. And Zeke probably said, guys, I would never touch a woman inappropriate. I would never put my hands on a woman. And then March 11th, St. Patrick's Day, what is he doing? Putting the lady's top down. So, and they're like, hold on. You just came here 3 months ago and said you would never touch a woman. You would never put your hands on a woman. And here you are doing this in public. So how do we juxtapose? How do we get past that, Skip? How? What am I supposed to do with it? You've shown a pattern. I believe because there were no charges in Ohio, no charges in South Florida, had Zeke had no other incidences, Skip, I believe this would have been, there's nothing, well, we've got nothing. But Skip, you got this list, okay, putting ladies top down, bar fights, 100 miles an hour. It's like, wait a minute. It can't be that many coincidences. They can't be wrong now. Every can't be wrong. And they spoke to that lady that he pulled the top down. Now, it's my guess, and I'm just speculating, and I'm going to do that today. I bet she told him that she didn't tell well, I was with him, and I told him to do that. That was okay. I can assure you, that's not what she said. And everybody's trying, well, how do you, look, I understand drinking, and I'm a firm believer. Drinking doesn't change your morals. It changes your behavior. Mm-hmm. See, alcohol allows you to do things drunk that you thought about while sober. See, that's how alcohol does, Skip, give you that. Boy, you get that courage up in you, Skip. Mm. You think you could fly. You could beat everybody in the bar. You want to fight everybody. Remember how, what you call him, got on that courage in Philadelphia, Riley Cooper, he got on that thing and Skip, he felt emboldened. You will say things, you will do things when you're intoxicated, but guess what? You thought about it while you were sober because that's the way the mind works. Zeke, Skip, he should appeal. And I misspoke earlier. They suspended Josh Brown for 1 game, Skip. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's what Zeke's looking at. Now, hold on. The wife said he did. He said he did. NFL, you intervened at the Pro Bowl, removed his wife and kids and put them in a different location, and you gave him 1 game. You caught some of her testimony in which she lied. Normally, in court, the judge would instruct the juror, any lie, you can deem everything else that comes out of this person's mouth as a lie.
The policy says 6 games.
Yes.
So how can you reduce 6 games if, in fact, he did what they say he did without detail?
Skip, okay, Skip, you gave me the punishment. Mm-hmm. Now I get to come back to you. I got to go back to Skip and say, Skip, that's too many games. I shouldn't get anything. Look.
Yeah, but to Skip's point, why give him the 6 games if there's even a possibility you're going to reduce it? Why have the policy of 6 games for the first-time offense? It makes no sense. There's no consistency in the punishment.
You have to be consistent because, remember, Zeke already took his legal team to New York and made his case to the commissioner and to the committee. And you can't go back now and say, I told you so, and they say, okay, you're right. We'll reduce to 4 games. I mean, how can you do that?
But how many times have we seen a player appeal something that has been handed out to them, and then they win the appeal? They don't per se win because they still get suspended a few games here or there. But
Brady didn't get suspended.
Brady didn't because that was a whole nother issue. That was a whole nother issue. I think there's a whole nother underlining deal there.
I will bet you there'll be no reduction of games.
It doesn't make any sense for them to reduce. What's the point of having the 6-game policy if you're going to reduce the game?
Zeke is saying, how does one guy get 1 game? He told you what he did.
Because you're supposed to progress. You're supposed to learn from your mistakes. So you can't bring up Josh Brown. This is the new policy.
No, that policy was instructed. They made that in 2014.
So then stop making the same
mistakes.
mistakes.
Fell through the cracks. I don't know what happened.
I don't know either, but it's a young man that I personally think needs to address himself.
He does
off the field because he's one that he's not mightier.
Well, to your point about her credibility about her lying, does Zeke have any credibility?
Exactly. No. That's my point. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter here. We're only going off.
Who do we believe less?
Exactly.
When you got 2 lives, who do you believe less?
And then you have to trust that the NFL did their due diligence, which is a whole nother conversation. No mercy. Marshawn Lynch and Michael Bennett both sat on the sidelines for their team's preseason games this weekend. Raiders coach Jack Del Rio said Lynch told him he's been sitting for the anthem for the past 11 years. Bennett said the violent events in Charlottesville, Virginia served as a catalyst for his action. Let's take a listen.
First of all, I want to make sure people understand I love the military. My father was in the military. I love hot dogs like any other American. I love football like any other American, but I don't love segregation. I don't love riots. I don't love oppression. I love gender slander, and I just want to see people have the equality that they deserve, and I want to be able to use this platform to continuously push the message of that. I'm being vulnerable right now. There's a whole bunch of people right now that sitting at home judge me, but they'll never get to this point where they can get and be vulnerable. And let people attack me because they don't believe what I believe in. But at the end of the day, I'm being vulnerable to show every kid, no matter what, show every person, no matter what you believe in, keep fighting for it. Keep fighting for the equality. Keep fighting for the oppression of people. Keep trying to change society.
We're joined once again by Greg Jennings. Greg, what are your thoughts?
Man, this one is always tough because when athletes in general start talking or crossing the line where we start seeing more of a politician or a political side of them, I'm for it, and then at the same time, it's like there's a time and a place.
Where's the time and the place?
The time and the place is all the time if you're going to do it. Mm-hmm. That's just me, my personal opinion. When I look at Michael Bennett and I look at the Seattle Seahawks, I look at a team, forget the organization, a team, a locker room that stood together. Last year, they made a stand saying, we're going to stand in unity. We're going to lock arms. We're not going to have guys sit down or not respect what we're doing when it comes to the national anthem, regardless of how individually guys felt. That's what they put out there as a team, as a locker room. And now we're not seeing that. So it further has me to dive into my opinionated side of what's really going on in that Seattle locker room. Now, on the flip side.
So you think what he's doing is more about what's going on there?
No.
Or what's going on outside in society?
No, not at all. Not at all. But that's where my mind goes. Now, as far as society, I agree with him 100%. As an African-American man, I agree with him. I understand the issues that are before us and that we are presented. But it's one thing to take advantage of a platform where it's almost like you're taken away from so many other people when I don't see you do it every single day. The reason why I can respect what Kaepernick is doing is he's doing it whether he's on the field now or off the field. This is just who he is now. And I believe when we see guys make a stance like this, it's our minds then, as owners and GMs, they look at Kaepernick. Well, he created this. This is why I don't want him on my team.
Do you believe if Colin Kaepernick was on a team today, he would be in the streets? So therefore, he couldn't do it every day.
No, you can still do it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have the platform and the audience and possibly the influence. I'm not at all saying that they shouldn't do it. Not at all saying they should do it. What I'm saying is, I haven't seen this outside. They still have brands. They still have platforms before they step on the football field.
Or I don't know how often you follow Michael Bennett, but he real about his.
Oh, no doubt about it.
He's
Both
real
Bennett
about
brothers.
Yeah.
Both Bennett brothers.
See, the problem that I have with this is that, Greg, we got to be very careful because we ask our athletes to stand up and speak out for something. And when they stand up and speak out, we tell them to sit back down. This is not the right time. This is not the right place. My granny used to say, boy, there's never wrong time to do right. He sees something. And this is the perfect opportunity because when is he going to have more ears and eyeballs on him than right now? And he's saying, look, America, football, professional sports are a microcosm of America. He says, I'm a black man playing professional sports, but I see what's going on. I see this powder keg, and it's about to explode. We're teetering to a place that we don't want to go. Now, we saw our president mention Colin Kaepernick by name. He's a politician. He talking about sports. Nobody said one thing about, hey, you a politician. Do politics. Don't talk about sports. We've seen other prominent figures be very, very outspoken and I have no problem with that, Skip. Who you think represents your ideas, your thought process, you vote for the person that best suited for you to get your agenda. I have no problem with this. The problem that I have is that it's never. So, you know what? I ain't have a problem with what those guys did in Charlottesville. I wish they'd found another time and place to do it. I wish they could have protested in another way. I could have wished they'd have voiced their displeasure in another way. You see how asinine that sounds? But that's what we do. Now, think about this. Colin Kaepernick was not in the street. He wasn't punching anybody. He didn't have no tiki torches. He didn't have no bats. He did not have poles. But this is what we know. Greg and I can go somewhere, and at night, it's 8 o'clock, and we talk loud, and somebody will call the police. They saw 3,000 men with Nazi flags, Confederate flags, and American flags, and not one police was called. The police did not intervene until assault started taking place. Now, we see what happens in rallies in Ferguson. We saw what happened in Baltimore. Not only did they call the National Guard, they brought the military in with military-grade vehicles. That's what we see. We see the difference in how you treat us when we protest and how you treat them. And until you acknowledge that this is a problem in society, it is the greatest problem in the black community because we feel we get treated unfair, be it educationally, be it healthcare-wise, be it employment.
Across the board.
Police, this is what we feel. And we feel it's because of our skin. I'm not saying I should get a job because I'm black, but I damn sure shouldn't be denied one because I'm black.
Absolutely.
If I'm as equally as qualified, don't discourage me. Don't mark me down because of my color. I commend Michael Bennett. Now, Marshawn's situation is different because he didn't tell us, Skip, why he did what he did. He said it was because he's always done this. Skip, I'll give you an example. When Mike Shanahan came back, he said, I want guys to go out and wave. The special teams guys, the punters and long snappers, returners, they would go out. He said, I want the quarterbacks to go out. Then I want the running backs, tight ends, and receivers. I said, Mike, I'm superstitious, very. I said, I need to go out with the quarterbacks. He said, well, hell, go out with the quarterbacks. Left it at that. I didn't want anything. I'm trying to buck the system. So Jack went to Marshawn and said, okay, what's the deal? He said, well, hey, I've been doing this for 11 years. Jack Del Rio.
Del Rio, okay.
Well, yeah, he went.
Coaching question.
And he mentioned that. I asked Marshawn, what was he doing? He said, Coach, this is something I've been doing for 11 years. There's no meaning behind it. Jack says, I respect him as a man. You do you. We're going to do us. But, Skip, that's the situation. If we ask our athletes to speak up, we can't pick and choose when we want them to speak up. You got to take it all. And Michael Bennett, I commend him because he put his money where his mouth is. He put his time where his mouth is. And he thought about this, Skip. This isn't no happenstance. And I think that's the thing is that people looking at, well, why did Colin do what he did? And they're waiting on Colin. There'll be a time and a place, and we'll call in to tell you what brought about this transformation of him. But for Michael Bennett, I commend him because he's a black man that's playing professional sports. And sports are a microcosm of society. You're not exempt because you make money. You're not exempt because you can shoot a basketball or hit a baseball. Because at the end of the day, you could do all those things, but you're doing them as a black man, and we know how we're judged in America.
I also deeply respect what Michael Bennett did and what he said, because we've had him on the show twice, and I've been around him enough to know that's a deep thinker, as is his brother. And he made the comment that I made myself vulnerable here, and you can argue he did. You saw what happened to Colin Kaepernick.
Correct.
Well, Michael, I don't know how many kids they have, but you got mouths to feed, right?
I think he got 2 girls, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so are you putting yourself in harm's way with owners, with your owner who rejected Colin Kaepernick? Maybe. So he felt so strongly about what he witnessed in Charlottesville that he decided to sit in protest and then speak out in protest. My issue with Marshawn was, as you point out, Marshawn's deep also. When he wants to speak, he can really speak. I need to hear what he was up to. You know, what was his point? Or was it just Marshawn being Marshawn? Just he can sometimes just go his own way for no explicable reason to us, right?
Correct.
So I'm not sure what he was doing. But by the way, speaking of Jack Del Rio, his coach, I've known Jack for a long time, arch conservative. He's God and country, okay? And when I first read his comment of, I believe strongly in standing for the anthem, I'm reading thinking, uh-oh. And the next part of it is, but I respect I'm paraphrasing, but I respect Marshawn as a man, and if that's what he wants to do, I'm fine with that. And I'm like, whoa, because I thought we were going toward, I'm not going to allow that, and yet he's going to make an exception for beast mode now in maybe 1 or 2 years rejoining the Raiders, right? For the last couple of years. So he just made an exception, I think, for Marshawn, right? Okay, well, that's interesting to me. Is that going to hold up? What if others start to protest in Oakland? And now I'm back to your point, which is a very valid one. This is a team game, and ultimately, Michael has to value what they're all trying to accomplish together, which is winning football games, as silly as that might seem, as insignificant as it might seem, but that's the object here, right? As a group. And they've had strong camaraderie and chemistry in that locker room, and I think it's the strongest backbone of a locker room, and it may be in pro sports, which is why I still don't understand why they didn't stand up en masse or refuse to play after Colin Kaepernick got a big no from, I guess it went to the top from the owner, because they could have used him. So I don't get why they didn't protest that to start with. But in this case, you're right. You have to try to do it in unison. I would hope that others would join him, to do it one way or the other. Let's go as a team. Or
no, I don't want them to. I don't want them to, because if you don't believe it, don't do it. My thing,
what if they believe it?
Well, if they believe it, join on.
Okay.
But I don't want you to just do it just out of a gesture. It needs to mean
Not a
something.
gesture. No.
Because the flag represents my freedoms of expression.
Yeah.
So don't try to suppress them because you don't agree with them.
Well, I think that's what Greg was saying.
Yeah, and I'm not. I want to make it clear. I'm not against what Michael Bennett did. My stance is, if, like you said, if you believe it, do it.
Yes.
But do it all the time. Right. Don't just, I get it. You want to use this platform, but you have other platforms that you can utilize as well. And when it comes to Jack Del Rio, I respect him saying, I respect Marshawn as a man. Yeah. Because as a parent, you have to address each child individually.
Absolutely.
And so if Marshawn says, that shows the maturity of Jack Del Rio. It's my belief, but it's not. It actually does. Exactly. It's
there
my
was
belief.
A time in that man's career, Jack Del Rio, he would have said,
you're standing.
No. Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens once the season starts. I do think we're going to see more of it. And I really hope that if you are an individual who had a problem with Colin Kaepernick's protest and caring about the flag that much, you were as equally outraged to see that disgusting display of hate in Charlottesville with that same American flag.
Malcolm Jenkins raised a fist. That's what he did all last year. So he's continuing.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. No mercy. We'll be live in Vegas on August 24th and 25th to get ready for the Mayweather-McGregor super fight. Come watch the show in the audience. We'll be right outside of T-Mobile Arena. Undisputed live from Vegas next week. And we're joined now by one of the greatest fighters in UFC history, former heavyweight champ and light heavyweight champ, Randy Couture. Welcome to Undisputed.
Yeah, welcome.
Good to have you.
Pleasure. We got expendables in the house. But he is not expendable.
No. We're 12 days away from the fight. How much of a shot do you give Conor to win?
In my estimation, I think he has a 1 in 10 chance of beating Mayweather. I think we're dealing with arguably the best defensive boxer we've seen in 20 years. The top boxers on the planet haven't been able to touch him. What makes anybody think that Conor McGregor, who's 0-0 in professional boxing, is going to go out there and touch Mayweather? I don't think it's going to happen.
Can Mayweather touch Conor?
I think Conor's going to try and be aggressive and bring the fight. He's a longer, younger fighter, and I think the more that he comes at Mayweather, the more he's going to get hit.
Can he get knocked out?
That's not Mayweather's style. He's not that bomber. He's not going to come out there and throw those kind of punches. I think you're looking at a 12-round decision more than likely. But it'll be interesting. I think
why would you give him a 1%?
Because it's still a fight.
Yep.
Anything can happen in a fight. And he is a long, unorthodox fighter. He's not going to throw things the way that Mayweather's used to seeing him. I think that gives him some chance. But I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. But I think 1 in 10. That's my estimation.
Oh, Randy, he's upset because
I'm not upset.
He wanted you to say there was
I know where his position is.
Chance but when you look at him, and Skip believes that he has dynamite in both hands, I believe the majority, 90% of his power is in his left hand. And everybody's getting all up in arms about the video that was leaked by Dana White of Paulie Malignaggi.
Sure.
What are we to make of that?
Let's see the other 11 rounds that they sparred. Where did that footage go? What did that look like? We see the one time that Malignaggi may have been off balance, and Malignaggi's treating it like sparring.
Right.
Sparring is different than fighting.
Right.
McGregor is acting like he was in the main event on fight night.
Right.
That wasn't what it was.
It was refereed 12 rounds.
So still sparring in a practice gym, and let's see the other footage.
Well, I did
sure
see
Malignaggi did some other things.
Back a couple of times.
I'm sure there were plenty of rounds where it was the other way around.
I saw Paulie's face at the end. It looked like he'd been
I think they're manipulating the situation.
Randy, since you spar, let me ask you a question. When you bring guys in, would you bring them in from a long trip, get them off the plane, don't feed them, don't give them water, and bring them straight to the gym?
Don't feed. Who says they didn't feed him?
I'm just asking you a question.
Locked him up in a closet?
It continues to get worse.
Well, that's what Paulie said.
Yeah.
Paulie said that.
Took the handcuffs off
Yeah,
him
exactly.
and then we walked into the ring.
So, I mean, okay, give us a glimpse into how sparring works.
Well, sparring, first of all, is over the course of weeks and months going into a fight. So the fact that this was a one-time event is questionable to me.
Right.
I brought guys in for camp that replicate my opponent.
Right.
Give me
And
that
they
look.
stayed for camp. They were there
They
the
stayed
whole
for the
time.
camp,
Yeah,
the entire camp.
Right.
And they're part of the camp, and they know why they're there. They're there to help me prepare,
Right.
to get ready to solve the problem of that guy that's across the ring from me. So this has a lot of questions in my mind.
Okay, but remember, this is a guy who's 0-0.
Yep.
Completely unconventional against the grain, and he chose to bring in a guy who does not like him. They already had bad blood. Now they got real bad blood spilling over. And he brought him in, and he invited some dignitaries to witness what was about to transpire, including Dana White, which further enraged Paulie Malignaggi. And there was, who was it? Cortez was brought in,
Yeah,
a
Joe
highly
Cortez,
respected
referee.
referee. And so they didn't do spar. He set it up like, this is my first real 12-round fight against a guy who has a chip on his shoulder against me, and who, again, you can argue is a little out of shape. I don't know, he's 36 as opposed to Floyd being 40, but he's a two-weight former world champion, so he's a skilled boxer. And Conor's saying, let's go, man. Let's go 12 rounds.
I agree. He was a skilled boxer. He was a world champion, but he's been retired, and he's a long way out of that. And again, I think it's a manipulation. Where are the other rounds? Show me all of them. If you're going to show me that one little piece where Conor had a good
that
moment
was the disputed
in the
moment.
12. I'm sure there were other disputed moments, but Paulie didn't have a guy there filming the whole thing, so those aren't going to be released.
Is that normal? That sparring, you have camera crews and you watching the whole...
No, none of that's normal. All of that calls this whole thing into question, in my opinion.
Oh, so this is... So I just want to make sure I'm right, Randy. So
Never had a real referee officiate any of my sparring
heck no.
in camp going into a fight.
Hold on,
Never.
this isn't a
If I
normal
filmed
fight either.
If I filmed it, it was so that I could analyze my performance, what position I was in. Was I dropping my hands? Where was I strong?
So you
Where
weren't
was I
trying to
weak?
look. You weren't trying to leak information
It had nothing
to
to
make
do
an
with the
opponent
media.
look bad and then try to make yourself look good.
No, I believe it's a
So,
manipulation.
help me out here. Is it normal for a champion boxer to have almost 3 years between real fights? That's the last time that Floyd fought was almost 3 years ago against a credible opponent, because I'm not counting Pacquiao because his rotator cuff was torn in sparring
Well, I think that
3 weeks before.
I think that the Pacquiao fight still has to count.
It was a joke.
That's not
You're
on
fighting
Floyd
a one-arm
that
man.
Pacquiao went out there injured.
Okay, but
And sometimes you have to fight injured. I
the-
rarely walked into a fight that I didn't have something nagging me.
I know, but this is so
This is a
nagging. You
contact
can't
sport,
use your
so-
left arm against the greatest defensive
I think
fighter
we
ever.
could probably find footage of him using that arm. It may not have been 100%,
Nope,
but he
it was
used
not
it.
100%. And they even denied him getting
But
an
it
injection
still-
before the fight.
It still counts, in my opinion. But no, I think Mayweather's certainly an exception. Is there some ring rust possibility because he's
Yes.
been off for a little while? Maybe, but I don't think it's been that long.
And he's
I think we're still going to see,
he's
contrary
40.
to what he's saying, oh, I'm not the same fighter, I'm older, I'm 40.
Yeah.
I think we're still going to see the same Mayweather we've always seen. And the technique, the tactics, the defensive posture, all the things that we've seen from him is still going to be there. He's a very smart man.
Randy, if you notice, I'm watching Paulie, and he's trying to emulate. He got hit flush with that straight left because he's trying to emulate Floyd. He's trying to get in that defensive stance, hold the right a little high, and roll the shoulder, and here comes the left right down Broadway. You bring the guy in, and you ask him to be somebody that Floyd is the only one that we've ever seen fight like this. So how can you expect a guy to look? I mean, look at Paulie, that he takes a straight left because he's trying to be someone he's not. So when you go, you spar, are you telling the guy, okay, this is what he would do, or you just let him go?
Well, we watch footage together.
Right. Okay.
This guy's in my camp. He's part of my team.
Oh,
We
okay.
study footage. This is the look. This is how he tends to fight.
Okay.
I want you to, as much as you can. I mean, it's tough being a training partner for
Right.
somebody. You know you're going to take some licks.
Right.
That's how it is.
Right.
Floyd Mayweather will have never encountered punching power like this. This guy has the biggest thunder in his fist.
Hold on, Randy.
I'm sorry,
Randy.
he just does.
Is that true?
I don't think that's true.
Don't ask Randy. I'm just telling you.
I
don't care what Randy said.
I think he's never fought anybody
That's
unorthodox.
unorthodox. Yes.
Correct.
Certainly his southpaw nature.
Southpaw and
the fact he's going to
stances,
switch leads.
all kinds of different weird stances.
And that's going to be different, a little bit different.
But also the way
he's going to come. Again, that's why I give him some chance. I'm not saying he's going to get completely housed.
If he catches Floyd, he will hurt Floyd. Now, you can argue he won't catch him for 12 rounds, and it's going to go 12 if Floyd's going to win it, because he's not going to knock him out.
But what about Floyd's unorthodox and the way he throws punches, unlike an MMA fighter throws punches?
Well, they're both counter fighters.
Right.
You watch what McGregor's done in MMA and how he's fought when guys stepped across. They're both counter punchers, but we're talking about a pure boxing match. I think a lot of people don't recognize how boxing changes in mixed martial arts. You've got to change your stance. Guys can throw kicking, knees, elbows, all the other tools in an MMA fight. That changes things.
How much of an advantage
this is pure boxing.
What if it's dropped to 8-ounce gloves? What if they both get 8 ounces?
I think that's a negligible difference.
Okay.
And obviously there are concessions being made because of their weight. Normally at 157, it has to be a 10-ounce glove.
54.
54.
Yeah.
Or 54, sorry. But you're talking about 2 ounces. McGregor's used to fighting with a 4-ounce glove. I don't think it makes that big a difference.
Well,
1 in 10. The man said 1 in 10.
I like the
and
one.
he said it was a hype video.
I like the one.
He said Conor released a hype video. That's all he did.
just coming on here stirring stuff up, Randy.
Hey,
Randy kept it real.
I think you are starting to sweat.
No.
Yep.
Randy, we need to invite Randy back next week.
Yeah.
So he can talk some more
You
about
need
this.
backup.
No mercy. Leonard Fournette made his NFL debut last week in the Jaguars' preseason win against the Patriots. The number 4 overall pick finished with 31 rushing yards and a touchdown. After the game, Fournette talked about the pace of the NFL, saying, "It's a lot slower than I really thought. That's how I've been since I first got into the NFL. A lot of people were like, it's going to be fast. But by me playing in the SEC, that kind of helped me a lot. I think to me it was really easy." Shannon, do you have a problem with Fournette saying this?
I don't have a problem with what he said, Skip. I don't believe he believes that. Skip, he played in a preseason game. Everybody that's come at this desk, and I played 14 years. I was very fortunate enough to play 14 years. I know there's a different speed between preseason and regular season. And this was the preseason. I could see, Skip, if he had game one. I can see if he had 9 for $115, 2 touchdowns, played like 2 series. I was like, oh, Leonard Fournette's on to something. Dude, you had 9 carries for 31 yards and a touchdown. And now all of a sudden you Jim Brown. This is what I'm gonna like to tell Mr. Leonard Fournette. Leonard, there are more NFL teams that has a defense like Alabama than Vanderbilt. And let me,
That's a bad analogy.
That is great.
You do not understand. We play really good defense, one of the better ones.
And in 3 games against Alabama, Leonard Fournette averaged 48 yards a carry, 48 yards a game, 2.5 yards a carry.
Yep.
Last year, his team did not score. And since you want to equate this to college, just so you know, the Jacksonville Jaguars are everybody's homecoming.
That is correct. So here's another stat for young Mr. Fournette. The New England Patriots in game number 1 of the preseason held out 40 of 90 players currently in their camp. 40. The Steelers held out the second highest, 24, Cowboys 21, Raiders 20. So 40 players were not on the field, who will probably make the 53-man roster. So that means maybe 13 players that were on the field will make the 53, and those will be mostly special teams players.
And
right?
of those 13, Skip, I guarantee you all 13 of them didn't play defense, so you probably had 5
split it up.
Exactly.
So I have no idea what he's talking about, and this is exactly why I told you before the draft I had fallen out of love with Leonard Fournette. I used to love him. I've told this story before. Les Miles loved him coming out of high school, said he is Jordan-esque in his intangibles, and I bought it and took it to the bank, and unfortunately for Les, he's no longer the coach at LSU because Leonard couldn't save his job because Leonard ran wild against Syracuse and Eastern Michigan and Texas Tech. But as you point out, Bama said no. He could not impose his will on Alabama, the same Alabama that Zeke Elliott ran wild against in the national semifinal game.
This is not a Zeke, this is Leonard Fournette.
Well, let's just compare. Zeke went for 230 yards on only 20 carries against the same Bama defense that shut down Leonard Fournette. That's a bad sign. As you point out, the NFL is full of Alabama.
Yes.
Full of them. So, I'm just going to say this one more time. The best running back in the draft I got to see in his game, number one, and I was impressed. I'm going to say it again. Joe Mixon was the best player in the draft at that position, running it and catching it. And Leonard went 9 for 31. He went 6 for 31, caught another pass for 11 yards. And you saw speed and power and hands that are rare. And I cannot defend Joe Mixon's character. He's a risk, obviously, for what transpired. But by all accounts, he's been a model citizen for the most part since. He had one traffic violation thing on campus, but whatever. I think they made a steal of a pick for the Bengals, and I think he's going to change the Bengals' lives. But I'm not so sure about Leonard Fournette changing Jacksonville's life because I don't know, can he impose his will on a defense? And by the way, he's already hurt. He's got a foot
hurt
injury.
already.
What?
So
he always had something going on at LSU.
So what I would like to ask Mr. Fournette is of all those players that you played against in the SEC, how many of them will be in the NFL? Because I can attest to you, tell you this for certainty. When you line up that first Sunday, every last one of those guys are in the NFL. Every guy that you played against at Alabama is not in the NFL. Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Texas A&M, this is the best of the best. So if you okay, I get it. I mean, he looks like a grown man.
He does.
He probably want to go run like, but Skip, I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen. Oh, he's in for a rude awakening.
Yep. Game one, and you say it's easy?
Skip, of a preseason game in which the team held out 40 of the guys that's going to make their opening day roster. There's only 13 more spots. But when you narrow it down, Skip, that's practice squad also. So you only got 6 guys that didn't play that's going to make the roster. And he talking about, I ran through them. This is easy.
I saw a great video, I think it was on NFL Network, before that preseason game, Jacksonville versus New England. And a lot of the Patriots starters were coming off the practice field like an hour before game time. And they'd gone through a grueling practice workout, and they were dripping with sweat. All the stars in a row came walking through. And then I guess they all went in, got something to eat, took a shower, put their game uniforms on, and went and stood on the sideline, right?
Skip, does he know that in practice that his guys are not really trying to tackle him like they would a running back in a regular season game? Does he get that? They're like his teammates and they don't want to hurt the guy that the fourth or the 6th pick in the draft? Does he get that? Like the defense that he's going against daily, they're his teammates. And they're not trying to impose their will on him like they're going to do, say, Henry or Murray from Tennessee or Blue. And he just one game, 9 carries, 31 yards, a touchdown. Oh, man, this thing easy. He's Jim Brown now. Okay.
He's also playing for the Jaguars, and even though they have assembled some talent on the defensive
side. They've always
had
talent.
They have had talent. But there is a losing mentality, and if it goes south quickly because the quarterback is shaky at best, watch what will happen. He's going to get sort of sucked down the vortex of this loser's mentality, and he's not going to have a happy first year.
Skip, I know a thing about homecomings, because when I first got to Savannah State, we go on the road. I mean, it's opening week. I'm like, who has a homecoming opening week in August? The end of August, we play homecoming. I'm like, who does that?
Your team was the homecoming?
Everybody's homecoming.
Wow.
But old number 2, old Deuce, I put a stop to that.
2?
That was my number in college.
Why was it 2?
Because my brother had 2.
Really?
Aww.
He had 3 in high school, I had 3. He had 2, I had 2. He had 84, I had 84.
Actually, I did the same thing.
But I put a stop to that. I bet ain't nobody else want to play us on homecoming. Yeah.
You put a stop. Did you win that game?
Yeah, we won. I lost one homecoming game.
Really?
Yeah. Valdosta State.
Valdosta.
But I cooked them. They beat us, but I beat them.
Really?
Yeah, 10 for $132 in the tub.
You still didn't go until the 7th round. I don't know how that happened.
Look at you keeping track of individual stats.
Morehouse? Oh, Morehouse. I cooked them.
Morehouse.
5 for 135 and 3 tubs.
Young Leonard will learn a thing or two about bulletin board material after this week.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Who did they play opening week? Because that's the game I'm going to watch. That's the game I want to see.
No mercy.
Thanks for listening to the Undisputed Podcast. I'm Joy Taylor. We're back again same time tomorrow, 9:30 Eastern.
Fox Sports 1 of 1.